Welcome to Clothesline Theatre. We have been waiting for you to tune in to hear tales of Prince Edward Island, a place of history and some mystery. You may be surprised by the true stories that have been unearthed and brought to life by our radio dramas. We invite you to settle into a comfortable chair and let the voices and sounds trigger your imagination as you hear the following dramatic story.
There were few acceptable career options for women in the early days of the 20th century. Teaching and nursing topped the list. Many young island women went to the Boston States or Upper Canada to train as nurses in teaching hospitals. They were part of the outward migration of island youth seeking a better life somewhere else. At the age of 21, Lillian Pidgeon of Kensington enrolled at the Royal Victoria Hospital School of Nursing in Montreal. She graduated from the school in 1913 and was nursing in the hospital when World War I was declared on August 4th, 1914.
Miss Pidgeon, the matron has asked to see you in her office immediately. I'm to finish your work on the ward. Hurry! What do you think you might have done wrong?
Good grief, I have no idea. Here, finish this dressing. Does my uniform look all right?
Yes, just go.
Enter.
You wanted to see me, matron?
Yes, Miss Pidgeon. Please sit down. As you know, Canada has been at war for over a year. What you might not know is that Lieutenant Colonel Burkett is forming an elite McGill University medical unit to go to France to treat the injured. It will be made up of the best doctors from McGill and 72 nurses chosen by the matrons of the Royal Victoria Hospital and the Montreal General Hospital, along with the matron of the Canadian Army Medical Corps. I have selected you as one of the nurses suited for this task. Your time of preparation will be short.
Yes, matron. Thank you for the honor and your trust in me.
I know your strength and dedication. You will be missed here at the Royal Victoria, but the need is great in Europe. I should tell you 2 other island nurses have also been chosen for the unit, Janet Rodd of Little York and Claire MacLeod of Charlottetown. It will be a challenging assignment for you, Nurse Pidgeon, but it will not be all work. There will be time for a little fun and some sightseeing, and hopefully you will not be long returning to Montreal.
The McGill unit was formed in March of 1915 and by spring had established a tent hospital spread out over 26 acres near Camières, France. Nursing Sister Pidgeon, upon arrival in London, England, had little time to sightsee before being transferred to France and was attached to another hospital until the McGill unit was ready. She was to find the conditions with the McGill unit challenging, to say the least. It was the wettest, coldest, and windiest fall the area had known in many years. The tents leaked and blew down in the wind, and the mud was knee-deep and played havoc on her floor-length uniform.
Well, sisters, the only way we are going to be able to move around today is to pin up our skirts at the waist. Thank heavens for rubber boots.
I agree, Nurse Pidgeon. Who could have imagined working in this much rain and wind, let alone the mud?
The weather conditions were not the only surprise that Nursing Sister Pidgeon and the others experienced at the hospital.
Sister Bless, is that really Dr. John McCrae tending that patient? He gave lectures to my class when he was a professor at McGill and a consultant at the Royal Victoria Hospital.
Yes, that's him. Lieutenant Colonel McCrae has been transferred to the McGill unit as a medical officer, and I hear he's not happy about the move.
But why? The McGill unit is doing important work.
Apparently he wanted to remain with the men at the front. He says that is where the real war is. He tended the soldiers right in the trenches during the Second Battle of Ypres, where the Germans first used poison gas. It scarred his body also, but his mind was scarred by all the death. He even officiated over the burial of his good friend, Lieutenant Alexis Helmer.
He wrote the poem about Flounders Fields for him.
Yes, I bet he never thought it would be published in England's Punch magazine. Everyone already sees it as a symbol of all this sacrifice.
Well, the war seems real enough to me, right here in the McGill unit. It goes without saying that having 300 to 500 wounded coming in at one time is not having it easy.
Indeed, it was not easy for the McGill unit. Thankfully, in January of 1916, the hospital was relocated to a monastery near Boulogne, France. Over the course of the war, the unit handled many of the wounded from the battles of the Somme, Vimy Ridge, Ypres, Arras, and Passchendaele. Pidgeon's service during the Battle of the Somme in 1916 earned her a mention in dispatches from Sir Douglas Haig, commander of the British Expeditionary Force. However, the long hours of work and stress took its toll on the medical personnel, and Nursing Sister Pidgeon was invalided for 3 weeks in England after the Battle of the Somme. But she could not be kept down, proving right her Montreal matron's faith in her. She was a tall, imposing woman who exuded confidence and proved highly competent. By the fall of 1917, she was made assistant matron of the McGill unit, supervising as many as 140 nurses and a hospital of up to 2,000 beds. She worked closely with Lieutenant Colonel McCrae on the wards and witnessed his great compassion for his patients. He often socialized with the nurses over games of bridge, mess dinners, and even the occasional dance. His cheery stories made them laugh even in the darkest days of the war.
Good morning, Sister Pidgeon. Taking some exercise before your shift begins?
Yes, thank you, Lieutenant Colonel McCrae. And you are out exercising Bonfire?
Oh, yes, I love this horse. I was privileged to be able to bring him over from Canada.
He sure is a beauty.
I believe you nurses love my horse more than you do me.
Never, sir.
Lieutenant Colonel McCrae was greatly respected as a medical officer and was highly in demand for medical lectures in France. By early 1918, he was in line for a command.
I have a dispatch for you, Colonel Elder.
Thank you. Please see that this correspondence of mine is mailed immediately.
Yes, sir. I shall see that it goes out on this very day of January 23rd.
Perfect. The appointment of Lieutenant Colonel McCrae as the consulting physician to the 1st British Army has come through. He has been promoted to full colonel. This will be good news for my dear friend who needs some cheering in this bloody war. As the commanding officer of the McGill unit, I will not waste a moment in delivering it to him. It is the first time a Canadian has received such a prestigious appointment. Officer, where will I find McCrae at this very moment?
I believe he's in the officers' mess, Colonel Elder.
It was with a bounce in his step that Colonel Elder went to find McCrae. He was most surprised to find him slumped down, asleep, in a chair in the mess.
Wake up, John. I have good news for you.
Oh, goodness. I'm sorry for drifting off to sleep. I'm not feeling very well and have a splitting headache.
I have the news that will cure your ills, old friend. Take the night off and rest up. You have more than earned it.
But a night's rest was not the answer. By the following day, McCrae feared he was developing pneumonia and confided in Colonel Elder.
You know, this is serious. Your lungs are weakened from the gas that you breathe.
Yes, and then there is my chronic asthma.
Well, not to mention the overwork and the fatigue. I'm going to have someone look after you starting right now.
Nursing sisters Lillian Pidgeon and Mary Bliss were assigned to nurse McCrae night and day. It is not known if he personally asked for them or if it was the decision of Colonel Elder. The two were very attentive to Dr. McCrae and knew that his condition was very serious. As his health quickly worsened, the decision was made to transfer him to number 14 British General Hospital in Wimereux, France. They went with him, hopeful of the outcome.
Well, good morning, Colonel McCrae. I'm so pleased to see that you have managed to get out of bed and sit by the window. That is what a good night's sleep has done for you.
Well, I'm contemplating with sadness the distant hills of the English coast.
They are beautiful. You hope the day will come when you walk them again?
You humor me, Nurse Pidgeon. But I happen to be an astute physician. I know my days are numbered, and I will never walk those cliffs again.
Oh, dear. Sister Bless, let's rest for a minute and have our tea.
Do you think Colonel McCrae is right? Is there no hope for him?
We both know, Sister Bless, that improvements on the dying often precede the final journey.
It's a cruel trick, this giving of false hope.
It was indeed a cruel trick. By the next afternoon, McCrae had deteriorated rapidly from the effects of pneumonia. He began to show symptoms of meningitis and soon lapsed into a coma.
There's nothing we can do now, Sister Bless, other than support him in a dignified death.
We will not leave his side until death comes.
Colonel McCrae, you are not alone. Nurse Bless and I are here with you, and will remain at your side as long as you need us. I want you to know that it has been my privilege and honor to serve beside you in France.
Death claimed the great doctor and poet early in the morning of January 28, 1918. His demise was deeply felt throughout the Canadian Army Corps. His military funeral was the largest seen in Europe, and he was laid to rest at Wimereux Cemetery, not far from the fields of Flanders.
Oh, sister, it's so sad to have lost Dr. McCrae. He was so dedicated to the task of caring for the wounded. Everyone will miss him.
Sister Bless, thank you so much for sharing this experience with me. Now we must carry on. as he would have expected us.
In May of 1918, Nursing Sister Pidgeon was transferred to No. 2 Casualty Clearing Station during the German offensive. She followed the Canadian soldiers up the line to the war's end. She later continued her nursing career in Canada. From 1930 to 1934, she served as matron of the Prince County Hospital in Summerside, Prince Edward Island, running it with militaristic efficiency. She never forgot her war years and the friends she had made and lost. Nursing Sister Lillian Pidgeon, John McCrae's special nurse. Presented by Wyatt Heritage Properties Incorporated. Narrator, Stuart Smith. Nurse 1, Charmaine Comeau. Nurse Pidgeon, Jennifer Beck. Matron, Janet Rose Hurst. Nurse Bliss, Sarah McIntyre. Dr. McCrae, Wayne Wright. Young Officer, Jordan Stetson. Colonel Elder, Albert Goody. Introduction, Lowell Eustis. Musician, Christine Anderson Gallant. Foley's, Alexandra Gallant, Krista Bryson, Nathan Wiley. Recording engineer, Peter Gallant. Scripts written by Marlene Campbell. Based on research by Catherine Dewar for her book titled Those Splendid Girls, Prince Edward Island Nurses in the Great War. Any errors in historical accuracy in the composition of the script are the responsibility of Wyatt Heritage Properties. This project has been supported by the Building Communities through Arts and Heritage Program of the Department of Canadian Heritage.